Hello, everyone. Tim Lawson here, host of The Better Life, a podcast for recreational gamblers, sports betting, and casino games alike. Everybody knows that I am a huge soccer bettor, and I like doing these videos previewing MLS, NWSL, and USL games week to week. I was unable to do a video last week, and so before I let this week get away from me, I wanted to get something out to sort of preview a little bit. It's a very early preview as NWSL and USL lines are not out yet. There's not even US Cup, US Open Cup, I should say, lines out yet, which is frustrating, being that it's only like 36 hours away from the time that I'm recording this. But I do have a lean that way. But I do have also two bets in the MLS that I have played. Again, I am not a professional bettor. Tail me, fade me, ignore me. However you like to take this, I will not be insulted or offended if you don't like my picks. But this is a look back at sort of what we saw and what we can sort of what I think has some value going into next week. There was a lot of uncertainty for teams before lineups were announced going into the MLS day, as we didn't know if players that played internationally during the international call-up, what kind of minutes they would get. And I feel like we saw, especially with like Atlanta United, we saw plenty of players get minutes, which I think was a good sign, showing that that load management is not an issue yet. And so there's really no reason to believe that it will be next week. However, in USL, there's the US Open Cup, the Lamar Hunt US Open Cup, and there's a handful of USL teams that are playing this week. It's tomorrow, Tuesday, the 4th. Hartford, Memphis, Miami, Tampa Bay, Detroit, Charleston, San Antonio, New Mexico, Indy 11, Louisville, Loudoun, make sure I get it, Birmingham, RGV, El Paso, Tulsa, Colorado Springs, the Lights, the Loyal, the Republic, Monterey Bay, the Rising. They all have games on Tuesday. And depending on, early success against the team and how serious they may take an Open Cup, I would like to think most USL clubs are going to take an Open Cup pretty seriously, because it's fun to be the cup set. It's fun to make that deep run. We know Sacramento did last season. You may have noticed that I didn't mention the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. That's because Rochester will not be able to field a team, and they have forfeited that match already. So Pittsburgh Riverhounds will not have to play a midweek match in the Open Cup, and instead will just get to focus on their next match going into Colorado, which I think is actually going to set them up pretty nicely. Colorado is, and look, there's no line out for this, so I'm speaking purely hypothetical. Don't marry yourself to any one way or the other on how I'm speaking of this, but this is just an early preview into what we might be able to expect later this week. I might be able to get a chance to do a video on Friday to further look into this. I may not, but take this as you will, as just food for thought going as these lines start to open. Colorado Springs Switchbacks are going to host the Hailstorm. The Hailstorm are a lower league, excuse me, they're a lower league USL team, and I think that they are capable of making this competitive. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to take them to upset, but if I can get a goal in on like the spread or something like that, I might take it. I think the Hailstorm will be able to make this competitive, and because of that, the Colorado Springs, they had a decent match against Loudoun. They won 1-0 in a game where I think Loudoun probably should have had an equalizer, but the Hailstorm are going to be able to be competitive, I think, which means depending on load management and how that game goes, I think Pittsburgh's going to be worth a look come Saturday. They'll be more well rested, and I think Pittsburgh's the better team in that scenario. The other U.S. Open Cup match that I am looking at is, and of course I want to see it before I say it, it is Memphis against One Knoxville. One Knoxville, the League One team. Memphis, by a lot of people's accounts, is a bottom three. Some people even have them ranked last in the USL, which is a far cry from this potent offense that we saw just a year ago. And I'm not ready to write them off quite yet, as some people are, but One Knoxville, just the one game into their season they've had, look comparable. And I think that Memphis, or I think they might be able to bring it to Memphis. And Memphis, more than anybody, who sees maybe that their USL season's not going to, isn't starting all that great, may be looking for, they may be looking at this match as a way to revive themselves, or they may not want to distract themselves with it, knowing that they want to write themselves in the league themselves. I'm not quite sure where that staff is going to be putting focus in game planning. However, I do think one Knoxville has the capability to walk in there, and I think they have the chance to upset here against Memphis. So that is the cup set in which I am calling. I will likely have some sort of money behind it. Everything is price and number dependent. So again, don't marry yourself to that idea. But that is one cup set that I'll be looking at. The other is Union Omaha against El Paso. Just because El Paso's played some difficult games, some sort of exhausting games, and against Louisville and such. And look, they've done well. They've competed, but I think El Paso still has some things to figure out. I think Union Omaha has had some time. Will be able to compete here. So again, everything's price dependent, but those are the games that I'm looking at. But if I was to circle one match on this entire list of second round Lamar Hunt Open Cup matches, it is definitely one Knoxville and Memphis. I am eager to back one Knoxville here. Going into the NWSL, there's really nothing to really, I guess, early preview. Again, lines aren't out. The red card that was given to the Washington Spirits, Paige Medier got that. I don't think that really has any bearing on next week's lines. So I wouldn't expect an overreaction there. But when you look at the results, I really don't think there was. I think maybe if you were to guess that any of these would be a surprise, maybe it's that Portland won as steep as they did against Kansas City, even with Dabina. But Kansas City Current have enough injuries. They're still trying to gel. I really wasn't all that surprised. I was on the over. It got there. I know some people were on Portland. Well, I was on Portland minus 2.5 unofficially as well. But it was, Portland looks like they're a tier of their own. Unfortunately, I don't know if we're going to get value on Portland anytime soon. Because I mean they've come out and they rocked a team that we didn't expect much out of in the first week against Orlando, and then they come out and they rock Kansas City, who's expected to be a top 3 team this year. We'll see if Kansas City can right their ship sooner than later, but Portland has shown that they're dominating the pitch regardless of where they are. Don't want to be prisoner of the moment, but I don't think we're going to see value on them again in the near future. Their next 3 matches: home against Houston. I'm sorry. Yeah, home against Houston, home against Louisville, home against Angel City. I can't imagine that they're going to be bettable in those lines, but Portland looks like the team to beat for sure. We'll see what team comes up to try to be competitive and try to be the number 2 and get that done. But man, they sure do look good. Looking at the rest of the NWSL slate, I don't think there's really much else to mention here, other than you have some pretty decent matchups where I think there's going to be some total opportunities going into this matchup. NWSL totals tend to trend lower in the market despite goal scoring opportunities. One of my partners mentioned that a lot of PKs early on here in the NWSL season, just 2 match days in, which is true. I don't know if I would expect that trend to continue. Players do tend to play a little more disciplined as the season goes on, but that doesn't mean that the refs and the officials aren't going to be more sensitive to contact, as it seemed like they have been. So North Carolina and Washington is probably a good look to the over. Portland and Houston, probably a decent look to the over. Gotham, probably going to be a sneaky play against going into Orlando. Kansas City, Chicago may also, as well as they gel, they'll create opportunities, but you can't deny that that Mallory Swanson's going to be able to create chances. And I think if there was a side that I anticipate there being value on going into Saturday, I'm going to be looking to see if I can get any piece of San Diego. The market's priors may still favor the Seattle, the rain in that situation. I think San Diego just looks particularly good. So I'm going to be looking their way, as well as Racing Louisville and going into Angel City. Racing Louisville looks competitive, despite their sort of poor performance last season. They have 2 draws to their name, Houston and Washington. Those aren't banger performances, but they're competitive, and I expect them to do the same when they go into LA. So those are the games that I'm looking forward to in NWSL. USL matches, we mentioned how Pittsburgh probably going to be worth a look against Colorado, considering the 2 different situations they have in the Open Cup. Miami going into Tampa Bay, definitely going to be an interesting matchup. Tampa Bay just can't get it together. And Miami, a team that I feel like I don't have a great read on, is going to be worth a look here. These teams always play each other tough, and Miami just might have the right step on Tampa Bay, who seems. But now that I can also see this being a match that the Tampa Bay reminds us that they are who we thought they were. We shall see. But otherwise, is it a handful of decent matchups? I mean, San Antonio and Sacramento is definitely. I mean, that's a good match to watch whether you have money on it or not. Charleston hosting Hartford is definitely going to be an interesting look. I can see that being a lean towards the under. Charleston creating a whole bunch of opportunities, and Hartford, despite their performances and their results, I think are creating enough chances to where I see more goals in this than not. Indy 11 Oakland, that's a under lean for sure. Indy 11 likes to control the matches, keep it close, as does Oakland, and I think Indy's going to win that battle. But the line should probably show you that. Louisville, Detroit will be in probably a look towards the under. El Paso, Orange County, and probably a look towards the over. When I say look towards the over under, I'm assuming like a 2.5, 2.75 line coming out. But we'll see what my numbers come to on these. And then we get a Sunday match in the USL. Birmingham hosting Phoenix. That's going to be a really interesting matchup as Phoenix is rediscovering who they are as a club and showing it. And Birmingham looks really good early on too. So a lot of good matches in the USL. Unfortunately, I don't have a pick or anything to give you. I can't give you a solid number because lines are out. But wanted to give an early preview on where I'm looking in each of these leagues. Now, some of you are like, "Hey, I could have sworn at the top you said you were going to have a play." Yeah, I got 2 of them, and they are they're in Major League Soccer. Look, NWSL and USL, the USL especially has surprised us so far this season, as lines have been out as early as Monday going into Saturday matchups. Now they're not up now, and I don't expect we're going to see USL lines probably until Thursday. Maybe we're lucky and see them Wednesday, but with the Open Cup come on Tuesday, those games will have to resolve before I think we see USL lines. And then NWSL lines, we've been seeing 3-way money lines as early as Thursday. I still don't. I don't know if we're going to see spreads before Friday morning though, or the day before matches, which is unfortunate. But that is. But Major League Soccer, these lines, you can get the next week's lines available at a lot of shops before the Sunday or Saturday matches, right? So on the last set of games were on April 1st. On March 31st, you could see lines for the April 8th games. Now, in most cases, you don't want to really look that way. You don't know what's going to happen, injuries, suspension, stuff like that. You want to make sure that you have those reads. So I don't bet that far ahead, but it is nice to see what those lines already are. So then once the games resolve that Sunday morning, boom, wake up, figure out what I think any implications, suspensions, injuries, etc., have to the line and make my bets. And I made 2 of them based on what I saw. The first one, Atlanta United going into New York City FC. Now, I took plus half a goal. That is still available. It's not available at the same price. You're probably seeing that my screen is going. I'm looking at both a dark mode and a light mode screen, so it's my silly glasses reflecting all this stuff. 15 minutes in, and anybody who's still here is probably like, just give us a damn pick. Atlanta United plus half a goal is what I took. Look, this looks good. It's that simple. This team, Atlanta United, looks so good. And when you look at body of work, now body of work is it's important to consider in your handicapping. And what I mean by that is in the first couple months of a season, right, with every game you take in, you're like, okay, now what does this mean to this team's body of work? And I'll use Atlanta and New York City as the examples. Let me open. I should have had these tabs up. I'm sorry. um Atlanta United, right? So they win at home to San Jose. They draw Toronto. Then they go into Charlotte. They win 3-0. They host Portland 5-1. Then they go into Columbus and they get rocked 6-1, but they didn't have a lot of their players because of the international duty. And then they host New York Red Bulls with a 1-0 win to that. And then you look over at New York City FC, and their body of work currently is they lost 2-0 in Nashville, draw 1-1 in Chicago. Then they host Inter Miami 1-0. That looked pretty good at the time. New York City are hosting DC United, 3-2 win over DC United. Then they go into Houston, lose 1-0, and they go into New England and draw 1-1. I mean, that body of work is not all that impressive. If you think about where Inter Miami is now, Inter Miami looks like they have fallen far from the back-to-back 2-0 wins that they had. They have fallen far from that. Going goal for goal against DC United isn't, that doesn't really show a lot of dominance. They just happen to score one more than DC United do. And Atlanta, while they don't really have a banger win as far as competitor goes, I think this, you don't take out, but you put the 6-1 loss in Columbus in context based on who was available, how hot Columbus has been rolling lately. And Atlanta United's, their numbers and their body of work show that I think they're a closer competitor to New York City FC than this market is stating. I like plus half a goal. I got it at even money on the plus half a goal. It's like minus 115 in some spots. Always shot for the best number. I wouldn't lay more than minus 120. After that, you're getting a little too pricey on this. But I like Atlanta United to at least come away with a point and cash the plus half a goal. Then when you look at one of the things I do when I review a weekend is I look at the red cards, right? Like who do I just know right off the bat is not going to be available next week and due to suspension. Rudy Camacho took a red card in the 23rd minute for Montreal when they were in Vancouver, and they got rocked 5-0 after that. Now, part of that, of course, is that they were down a man. But if you've watched enough soccer, the novice soccer fan will think that a red card is a death card, right? That it's the call of death for any team. I've seen plenty of teams go down a man and then win the game, right? And it all depends on how well the rest of the team is doing and how well managed the team is. Montreal loses Camacho, and then they concede 5 goals. Well, that's because this poor back line of Montreal loses their best player in Rudy Camacho. And let me make sure that I get the tab had to be. Camacho is his goals added is nearly a half a goal this early into the season. And that's the most on this back line by a long shot. And let me pull up. You're probably like, why don't you have this stuff ready to go? Well, because I'm a new father and I'm juggling a lot of things, and I appreciate everybody's patience here. And if you're still watching, it means that you're somewhat enjoying this. Rudy Camacho, when you look at the Montreal stats, conceded per 90. Rudy Camacho, when he's on the pitch, they're conceding 1.64 goals per 90. The rest of that back line is 2 or more, all the way up to 4 goals per 90. And you're thinking, wait, that doesn't make sense. So they haven't, but this is measuring per 90 on minutes on the pitch, right? So it's a bit of an imperfect read because it tells you how well that player may be contributing, or how poorly that back line is doing while that player is on the pitch. And Camacho is a good half a goal or more better on conceded per 90 than his colleagues in that back line. You take that out. You know who doesn't have a poor back line? New England Revolution. I took them at even money. They're at minus 115. I'm still saying that I'm playing New England. Please shop for the best line. I wouldn't go much further than what it's at right now, because you don't want to get caught into too high of a break-even position. But I think Montreal, going into New England without their the best member of that already struggling back line, I can just see this being 1-0, 2-0 for New England, and I took New England. So New England to win outright. I got even money. I wouldn't play much further than the minus 115. That it's sort of always shop around, find the best numbers. And then it took Atlanta United plus half the goal. And I intend on being on One Knoxville tomorrow night in the Open Cup. Follow me at Soccer is Better on Twitter to see what I actually end up playing in that. Okay, a little longer than most of these are, but wanted to recap a little bit what we saw in these leagues and then what that may say for the games coming up. Got my DC United Cherry Blossom kits. I am a sucker for Cherry Blossom themed sports stuff in DC. I think the Nationals with their Cherry Blossom jersey is the best that's out there, but I was very quick to get a DC United Cherry Blossom kit because I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. Okay, I'm at Soccer is Better. Check out the podcast, The Better Life. Thank you so much for listening. Good luck with all your bets. I will hope to be back Friday, but if not, follow me on Twitter to see what else I end up playing. Bye-bye.